together is pure sweet honey. Being together is pure sweet honey.
Guys, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi. Great. Everyone's having a great time. What an awesome experience to be here and to see a packed room. This is so awesome. I'm so excited to introduce our next speaker. This session I'm like equally excited about and also terrified about of just the future, and I'm sure you are too. And so I'm just like, what's gonna happen? After a stint at the global brand experience team at Nokia, Gerardo Herrera became the head of brand experience and associate at design studio Nuovo, an incubator for developing compelling ideas, design solutions, and innovative technology systems for commercially viable products and services with global brands and new ventures. As the director of packaging at ArtCenter College of Design, and my incredibly supportive boss at ArtCenter, I have to say, Gerardo leads the department's faculty in the continued development of the curriculum with a focus on single-use plastic-free packaging, while also leading ArtCenter's first Master of Design in Brand Design and Strategy, an online program for working professionals who are seeking to advance their careers by gaining the next level of strategic experience. Please welcome Gerardo.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here because the last time I was here, I was talking about intelligent packaging. And thank you, How Design Live and Andrew and Jessica for bringing me back to talk about something that has to deal with another aspect of intelligence. So let's kind of tell you a little bit more just about me. So yes, I love science fiction movies. You probably maybe would have guessed that. Yes, Nokia Design Advanced Concepts, so we were looking at the future. And at ArtCenter, yeah, I'm a professor, but I also get to work with students who are also imagining the future, which is a lot of fun. And one of the things that too is I'd love to adopt tech early, right? And you probably can kind of guess, these are the movies that I grew up with and the robots that I grew up with. Yeah, I know there's HAL 9000, okay. So that's maybe the terrifying part of it. But I really wanted that Johnny Soko watch to control Giant Robot. And many years later, I was able to control that and actually do that with developing wearable devices and playing even with augmented reality devices as well. How many of you seen the new Apple? Yeah, right? Pretty amazing. We did that in 2014, and I'm really excited about what Apple has done. So I'm going to be the first one on the block to get one of those. So hopefully today, I will bring you some interesting insights and techniques and how I use AI in design and packaging. So one of the things I did is earlier, or the end of last year, I started to really delve into AI. I was going, wait a second, what's going on here? How could I utilize this in my process? How is this going to affect me? How is this going to change the way I work? And so I really focused in on the packaging side. And today I'm going to really focus in on packaging and AI. And I started to look at, well, could I take subjects and models? Could I get the context of packaging and even play with the kind of models that I want to look at and change them out quickly? But it was pretty interesting. And I started to really talk to some of my colleagues who started to adopt this earlier and say, hey, how are you doing this? What's going on? And so I spoke to a few of these creatives that were working on this. One of them was Sherry Horowitz. She's a brand strategist. Evelio Matos, for some of you who are following on Packaging Unboxed, has been doing the same thing as well. I also have Brian Skikes, who also does great work on prompting. And Laura Lee, a brand photographer. Speaking about brand photographers, I have another wonderful colleague, Terry Campbell. I was watching his work on LinkedIn, and he's actually taking backgrounds, so AI-generated backgrounds, and compositing them together with packaging, and even models. So just taking his models. It's a standard thing he's been doing. It's pretty amazing to see that. Likewise, Chris Branch and Paul Parsons in the UK with Seedly. I learned a lot from him and his team, and they just recently, and maybe you've seen this campaign, working with Coca-Cola and OpenAI, and utilized Coca-Cola's own assets to create a campaign that was put on Piccadilly Circus and Times Square. Another colleague here has his point of view on looking at how you use colors, materials, and forms in his practice. And if for those of you, how many of you have been watching some of the architects who are utilizing AI? It's pretty amazing. They're really able to look at this particular architect using ControlNet and Stable Diffusion to bring his sketches to reality. Also, one of my friends, Javier Palomares, who's the furniture and product designer, also playing in the world of AI and developing the products within his modeling capabilities and manufacturing. And then one of my former students who is here today with me, Sho, about 4 or 5 years ago, he started looking at and envisioning how could I use this in my own practice? And so he developed a platform called Show AI Platform. And it deals with how you work with and train this software on your assets, your tone of voice, and overall your business. And it's securely done and proprietary for your way. That's a smart way to do it, kind of like what Adobe is doing right now, right? So I'm very excited to see my students go out there and do some amazing things in the future. And so when I look at this for my own practice, I have to think about how is this going to affect my business, the way I do it, as well as how is it going to affect the world of education and how I'm going to teach my students to be ready for you who might be hiring them. And so one of the things that I was looking at and thinking about, in the beginning of this year, I was thinking, what if I could take this AI and make something practical with it? Could I actually take this AI image that I created in Midjourney, turn it into specifications that could be read by Pacdora or ESCO? How many use Pacdora or ESCO, right? And then get it cut on our Kongsberg ESCO table and kind of get it. That would be amazing if I could do that. So that's goal number 1. Can I do that in the next following months or year? I'm thinking maybe pretty soon. Goal number 2, what if I could take an AI 2D image, get it read and turned into a model, and then get it printed so that I can visually see and touch my packaging? That would be pretty amazing. So one of the things I've done for you today was, for this session, was I put my Discord channel in here. This is an area for you here today can utilize to practice prompts with me. I'm not going to be able to show you how to do everything here today, but I want you to come on and I'm inviting you to practice with me. And there you'll see all the links and resources that I utilize and the people that I learn from, and as well as you can ask me anything. Sound good? All right. So what's the agenda for today? Well, we have a couple of things to go over. I'm going to go over Midjourney and Discord. I'm going to go over some of the experiments that I utilize with different types of prompts. And I think that's going to help you with some of your workflows with these different types of prompts that you could utilize. And then it's just kind of looking at some resources to fast track your overall learning curve on this. What I hope you walk away with is think about how might this work with your workflow. All of you are very different, but yet we all have the same sort of ways that we approach things. I also want to see and hopefully show you some practical examples that could utilize some of this right now. And as well as think about how you might adapt or adopt to these tools. I know a lot of us are a little bit like, wait a second, how is this going to affect my future? Kind of like what I just said earlier. What does this mean for me? And my students are saying the same thing. Like, Gerardo, I'm scared about this. I go, yes, but let's learn about this. Because I just remember, this was like what? In the beginning of desktop publishing, for those of us that remember that beginning. So let's look at a breakdown of the design process. And this is where I have broken it down shortly for us. I'm only going to focus on the front-end area. Really focus on the early phases of the creative section and conceptualization. I think this is where it's really good at this moment, unless you're using proprietary software that is being trained specifically on your work. So if we look at it in here, one of the things that I wanted to show you was my first early attempts at how I was utilizing AI. So let's look at some of these crazy ones. So this is my first time, this is 7 months ago. I put in a package with a kangaroo face on it with granola. Well, I didn't quite get it, and I don't know what was going on. So that was my first attempt. And I used the exact same prompt, and I put that in 3 months ago, and then just today. So you can see it's being trained. Okay, so it's gotten better. Man, everything's getting better in this area. And that's just Midjourney. Now, I also tried Dolly at the same time so I can see it, and I've been documenting my process along the way, and Dolly gave me this. So, okay, I did want the kangaroo to flash me a peace sign, but it kind of got a little goofy. So I started to ask my colleagues, the ones who are really practicing in this area, and I said, hey, what's the secret? What's going on? And I got to learn a lot from different people. Now, one of the things I was working on was on paleo granola. So I put in paleo granola. Well, I got back a paleo dinosaur kangaroo. So words matter, and there's still some training to be done. All right, but what I learned from this was, okay, I think I'm getting there. How do I then go further, and what do I do? Well, some of the images you see here today, I've generated using Midjourney. A lot of you know Midjourney. How many of you have been playing with Midjourney here? Quite a few of you. Great. And there's other types of examples that I'm going to show you other than just Midjourney as well. Currently, it's at version 5.1, and any day now, maybe even if I finish today or during my speech, it'll be version 6. And I've kept playing with this deck for all of you to utilize, and it just kept changing every week, every day. So what is Midjourney or any one of these? This is a text-to-image prompt. So anything that you write and you specify, you'll get an image back. Now, will you get it exactly the way they specify it? Not really, maybe sometimes a little random, but it's getting closer to what you're asking for. Now, how do I use Midjourney? Well, I utilize another program called Discord. How many of you are familiar with Discord? Quite a lot. Okay, great, it's like a Slack. So for those of you who are not, I've also put the links in here so that you can jump on and get on there with me as well on how to do that. So let's think about how we use AI. So first and foremost, really think about, well, really work with your legal team on this. Really work with your legal team and your IT. Make sure that you do this because this is critical, okay? That's my first note for you on that. I've been working with quite a few agencies and corporations on this, asking me about that, and that's one of the first things they're asking, okay? The next part of it, once you've gotten through that, then let's think about your workflow. All of us have a particular workflow, and the workflow that I look at is, well, I can think of this as an assistant and a tool to do what? I could develop mood boards, I could develop characters, packaging formats, color, photography. Then this is where it becomes really great for you. Utilize your design methodology. What is your design methodology or process now? Think about where this would fit in. If you're by yourself, this is perfect. Think of it as Jarvis and Tony Stark working together. You can spitball ideas. So remember that robot that I liked? You know, Johnny Robot? Also, this is where you can now begin to use your design knowledge. There are specific things that all of you know how to speak very clearly about and how you articulate your design to what? Photographers, you know, filmmakers, you know, your interns. And think about, I mean, you can see style references, photography, angles, any kind of material references or packaging types. For those of us who are packaging experts, we know the packaging types. We know, and Midjourney and any of those software knows those packaging types pretty well. So this is what I did. I thought, okay, with all this thing that I've been delving into, what if I conduct a little experiment for myself? And I thought, what are those tasks that I always have to do? And I thought, what if I can kind of dream about my target consumer or imagine it? What if I can do that with photo and illustration style boards? What if I can do that with directional themes? And then, of course, create packaging sketches from that. And so I gave myself a 2-hour time limit to see what I could do. I was thinking, that's a simple goal, I think. Well, so again, remember I was working on granola last year, and so I just kind of had that there, and so I just decided to reverse engineer it, so I did it. And so I looked at this granola that was inspired by an Australian founder that we were working with. And so I wanted to imagine these Gen Z fitness instructors, and there's my prompt, a very simple prompt. That's what I learned, keep it simple. And it came back with some interesting shots, some kind of deformed people and maybe some weird granola, but all right, that was good enough for me to turn it into a very quick board. Then I quickly moved to the next one, which was photo and illustration style. I said, okay, let's look at, and I was gonna say Australia, but then it came back with different kinds of images, but I really wanted Australia outback for some reason, because I had an orange kangaroo on my pack, which you'll see soon. And so it came back with this. And remember that peace sign kangaroo that I wanted? Well, I got my peace sign kangaroo, Pretty freaky, right? So I've got a kangaroo flashing a peace sign in several illustration styles. So I kept at it. With Australia Outback, I knew I was going to get particular colors, so I looked at it from materials. So what kind of materials? And then I asked for a macro shot of textures and materials. Now, are these animals real? I don't know. I don't know about insects in Australia, but it's given me the kind of textures and materials and patterns that I could play with. Likewise, I just said, well, what if I just also create a prompt, a simple prompt first as the top one, and I put a more complicated prompt in the second paragraph that you see there, and I asked for a kangaroos, a sesa trees, and a kookaburra bird. And it came back with this. Now, it threw me some trucks in there, and it's random, so I'll go with it. I wouldn't have thought to put a truck in there. And then I started into the packaging side. One of the things I knew for sure was, okay, I'm going to use Australia Outback because I'm going to get the same sort of coloring system to go along with that. And so then I asked for a kangaroo, and I got this crate that I was looking for. But it's not really a crate, so I just have to go with it. But it gave me some really good ideas. And then I did it again, gave me different variations, and so gave me some interesting ways of how to use type and so on. And then I wanted to test to see if it could do it in different variety packs. And so I asked for a pouch, a tin, a box, and it did do it. And I also got my kangaroo with a flashing peace sign. All right, so this seems to be working. I think I'm getting somewhere with this. And I did get a kookaburra bird and a weird-looking kangaroo, but hey, I'm working my way through here. So I decided to do this. I said, okay, now that I know how I'm trying to deal with that, how would I apply this to the education space? Could my students do the same thing? And I actually asked my advanced students to give it a shot. I mean, they all know how to do mood boards, consumer boards, personas, et cetera. And so they went ahead, and this particular student, Janine Hernandez, used a couple of different generators. So she used a sharpened design generator to suggest a product category. Then what she did is she used Playground, a tool from OpenAI, to fine-tune her prompt. And then she tried to test Midjourney and DALL-E. How many of you have been using DALL-E? Okay, Stable Diffusion? Okay. So here's her process. So she got a prompt to design a card game for a zoo. The target market was children's 2 to 5, and to create like an educational type product. She used Playground, and it gave 5 possibilities for educational games. And she chose number 3, a card game, a card matching game. And out of that, she started to input the target. DALL-E's on one side, Midjourney's the other, and you can kind of see the variations. Midjourney's a lot more expressive. DALL-E's trained on a different data set, so it's going to give you a different type of return. So again, she looked at it, and she also put in a prompt for what the product could look like. Okay, so once she got there, she went ahead and started to use Midjourney, because she liked what Midjourney was coming back with. And she started prompting it with different animals, and then finally went for packaging round 1, packaging round 2, packaging round 3, and then she chose this as one to move forward with. So that was done in 2 hours. Pretty crazy, huh? I'm going, oh crap. So I asked my students, what do you think? And they're going, well, I don't know. I don't know about this. All right, so we're still working on that, and I've been training quite a few of my students on all of this. And one of the things they said was, Gerardo, I can see you doing this because you have all the experience and background. But I come here so I can learn the fundamentals, so then I can feel good about doing this. I thought that was a really interesting insight. So something to think about. So let's talk a little bit about Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, and Midjourney. I'm not going to go into full detail, but I just kind of want to give you an overview. These are the top 3 right now that are in the market. If you look at here, Stable Diffusion uses an app called Dream Studio. There's also DALL-E, which some of you have used, and Midjourney, which uses the Discord app. They used to be free. I could conduct workshops and make you do that. Now it's all behind paywalls at this moment. But give it a shot, though. If you haven't done it, try it. What I wanted to do, and this is right out of the box, I wanted to kick the tires to say, what if I just do a very simple prompt? And this is what I gave to that packaging design for animal cracker cookies. So this is what DALL-E came back with, this is what Stable Diffusion came back with, and this is what Midjourney came back with. Remember, they're all trained on different data sets. Midjourney does very expressive pieces. Doesn't mean you can't get Dolly and Stable Diffusion to do the same thing. It just means you need to know how to speak with it and specify what you want. That's the key. So there's a lot of writing that's going to be taken on here. Now, how many of you have been playing with Firefly? Okay, if you haven't been playing with Firefly, get on it as soon as you can. It's from Adobe, and Adobe's doing it right. So here it is. I put the exact same thing. Remember, kicking the tires, just packaging design for animal cracker cookies, and this is what it came back with. All right. Okay, it didn't come back the way I would have thought, but I did do it again, and I applied a lot more language to it. It came back with some really amazing work. So I just wanted to show you the difference so you can see. This is right out of the box. Each one of them are trained on different data sets. You just need to learn how to work with it very differently. So let's get into some examples of how you might want to craft some prompts. First thing I know, and I was talking to different people, was, does it matter which way I put the words? Well, I did a test. And I said, OK, animal cracker packaging design versus packaging design for animal cracker. And I didn't see any difference. And I've tried it several times, but in other platforms, it does make a difference. So you have to test it yourself. But what I'm saying here is keep it simple. Keep your prompt simple and then work your way up. Don't try and get crazy. First, start small. For example, here, I was thinking a white plastic tube for cosmetic tube. Now, I should have asked for a plain white cosmetic tube, and I should have directed it a bit more, but this is what I got back, and I go, well, I really want that, so how do I do that? So then I redid my prompt and asked for it very specifically with no identifying marks, no type, and asked for it on a white background, white ground, and shot with an overhead light. And I got back what I wanted. Now I have consistent, workable PSDs or workshops, mock-ups that I can play with. So pretty amazing to see that. So there you see the same prompt. I know these are really tiny to see, but you'll get the deck, and you'll be able to practice with these exact same prompts and see what you get back. So how is it broken up? Now, this is Midjourney's way of doing it. And I'm, again, not going to go into too much detail other than it's pretty much consistent with some of the other platforms that you could utilize. But think about the first part. The first segment is an image prompt. So imagine that's your descriptor. And then your middle section is your style or influence, which is the text prompt. And then your parameters. Parameters are important. This is where we also know our languages in terms of aspect ratio. Here I asked for an aspect ratio of 16:9. And of course, I also asked for a particular type of rendering technique, which is called Octane Render, or for those of you who are in gaming, Unreal Engine, etc., which is really cool. So keep it simple. Now, you can imagine things like this. So this is another way of doing it, and this is, again, coming from Midjourney. Style of whatever the style you're thinking about. Convey your idea, what is happening in the image. And then finally, think about the design art language that you all know. Here are some of the examples like knolling or isometric. And then finally, again, the overall details. How do you want it shot? What kind of camera do you want? What kind of angle are you looking for? These are all things that it understands, and practice with that. Now, just a note on style of. I like to create my own styles. Use language to describe what I'm after. A lot of art history, right? We have to kind of understand. I'm not really a fan of trying to describe a style of a particular artist. I'm still a little iffy on that. So I know there's that discussion that goes on with that. Midjourney has a great user guide. If you haven't been on that user guide, you'll be able to be an expert pretty quickly, because it does go into breaking down prompts very quickly. It tells you how to do multi-prompts, and it tells you all the things about aspect ratios and other things. I'm just showing you this because it is broken down really easily. In fact, you can see the difference between just putting in hot dog versus 2 semicolons to get a dog that is hot. So I can see that's what happened with me with paleo. All right. So let me just now take you through some workflow examples and techniques so that you can see how could this apply to what you might be doing or practice with. So let's look at this. Keep it simple, like I said. Think about how might you want to utilize it in your creative sessions. In this particular aspect that I utilize, I use visual drivers to kind of think about how I might want to create the form for my packaging. And so I wanted to create very unique type directionals. Remember the simple crafting prompts that I told you to utilize? Well, here I was just looking at a variety of different accessories and fashion and putting them into a 9-grid setup so that I can influence what I was going to prompt next for my packaging. So that's directional 1. And here's directional 2. So you can see some of the little bumps that's coming from that leather or some of the flowing pieces from the shoe. So that's one way that you could utilize that. Now, how many of you here have been playing with ChatGPT? I'm assuming a lot of people, right? Yeah, right? That's a time saver, isn't it? I've been speaking to a lot of different people in there, in writers, people who are writing proposals, everything. It's amazing. Well, I ran across this particular one. For those of you who are going to utilize, I'm going to show you how to train ChatGPT if you don't have your own personal AI set up. I'm going to show you how to train ChatGPT to become an expert emulator. So you can make it become a packaging expert, or you can make it become an expert prompt master. And so I ran across another amazing AI artist, and his name is Josh Cross-Kazin for Kazin AI. And there's other people that teach this too. And if you go to his website, you'll be able to download his script. Literally, he gives you the script. And then you can then play with it and modify it according to your knowledge. And so in this one, I looked at it, and he was training Midjourney to say, hey, focus on clear, very concise descriptions with parameters. He also, again, used Midjourney's language to train ChatGPT to say, be very specific and vivid, describe every single aspect of the image from style, color, medium, and composition, and I want you to come back with 3 prompts for me. So I decided, wait a second, let me give this a shot. I want to see if I can do this, and then I give this to you guys. And like I said, there's other people that do the same thing. And so I said, very simply, packaging design for a modern cosmetic skincare line. And it gave me 3 different possibilities, and I picked the last one here. And it basically said it's going to give me a beautiful, ornate, modern skincare science type pack. You can read the rest, but this is what it came back with. And I'm going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Okay. And I'm now typing all sorts of stuff, trying the script out. So what he says is, go ahead and modify that. Modify those scripts. Make it your own, because all of you have very unique perspectives on how you describe what you do. And this is where you come in to provide that. So I decided to do that. Oh, well, let me try it with tequila. Why not? I like tequila. Well, tequila doesn't like me, but so curious of tequila. So I was curious of that. And so here it was. So it came back with a prompt that was more contemporary and also utilizing very classic type imagery. But then it came back with another prompt for me that was about a modern geometric faceted tequila bottle. It's like, wow, okay, 2 different worlds. I could utilize that. That's interesting. I probably would have gotten there through a long process of sketch and design, right? So, all right. Then I decided, well, what if I do this like the rest of us? And what if I do this if I don't train it? What if I just ask the question to see what would Midjourney do, or ChatGPT 2 and Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, all of them do? And I said, could you describe me a bottle of tequila in short form? Just wanted 3 sentences. And it gave me a really nice story about it. But I actually, in green, I added the parameters of how I wanted it stylized. And so it came back with this. Then I asked it, now give me a longer form story. And it was interesting because the longer form story kind of described this interesting piece of, raise a toast to adventure and discovery with every sip of our limited edition tequila. This exclusive brand is handcrafted, and it goes on. And I'm going, how is this thing going to create, or how is Midjourney, any of these things, going to create an image? I wasn't sure, so I tested. And it came back, and it came back with this, Came back with that. And it's like, it created an ad, a social ad. Of course, you've seen how you can then create your website. You can create ad banners in the aspect ratio that you want very quickly. And I've got some concepts. Pretty scary, huh? All right. So now let's think about this. What if you start with an existing image? This is another way that we do it too as well. You get a pack and you're saying, man, what could I do with this? And you start sketching really quick. So I tried this technique. I just put in this package, used that image as a prompt, and then describe what I was after. Aztec pattern style packaging design for tortilla chips, photorealistic. And it gave me these things very quickly. Like, oh, that's pretty good. It's trying to do Tostitos, kind of. And gave me some more. So these are very quick iterations on this. And here I am, trying to sketch as fast as I can. Like I'm not even competing fast. Workflow. Here's another part of the workflow. Again, using sketches as prompt. Now, this is where I get excited. I get excited because now I'm not thinking about random stuff. I can now start looking at making my own sketches. And here's a sketch that comes from one of my former students, Olivia Patton. I took her sketch, and then I asked, render in ultra-realistic detail with highly polished metal details. This is what it came back with in a few seconds. And I'm going, you know how long that would take me to do that in Procreate or Photoshop or any of our 3D type pieces? I mean, if I was just doing a quick sketch. Okay. So I tried it out on another program other than Midjourney because I wanted to test, because these new programs have been coming out left and right. And this one's called viscom.ai. You guys can take a go and take a look at it. And I took my sketch and I asked for a modern cosmetic glass bottle with a black cap, shot studio style detail. And you can see how it came back with. Now, if you don't have a sketch, then you can go ahead and use Viscom AI and sketch directly in its in its software or in its interface. I used my mouse, so it was a very crude design. I should have used a tablet. And within a few seconds, it came back with my glass, smoked glass, smoked top. All right, so that's Viscom AI. You can go to another one by Replicate called Scribble Diffusion. You can go on your phone, you can try that if you like. And so it comes up with this image, and I went ahead and I quickly sketched. I sketched it out, and I was asking for a perfume bottle, glass, black top, red liquid, white background. And within a few seconds, you can see my prompts there. It started to come back with this. And here they are. And I'm going, damn. So, all right. Here's another one by Replicate. This is called ControlNet. So you're seeing these things. Again, one of my sketches, and I asked for aluminum, a nice aluminum finish to it. I did the same thing, and this time I asked for purple liquid, and I also asked for gold backgrounds too. And you can see what this is doing. All right. So what do you guys think of this now? I like it because I can control it. The things that are coming back with is the materials that I can work with. But it's my sketches, stuff that I want right away, not some random stuff like, oh my gosh, what am I getting back? Kangaroo paleo, right? So the next one is, how could I explore this idea again of AI 2D image to a former structure? And remember my goal number 2 for ArtCenter, for myself? Could I take an AI 2D image and turn it into a 3D model? So here is an image that I generated very quickly in Midjourney. You know how many seconds it takes. It's like very few seconds if you're on fast mode. So I used Midjourney. I used an enhancer to sharpen it. And then I put it into a software called Cadem AI. And that's been around for 2 years for the entertainment industry for character development, where it can take a 2D image and turn it into a 3D model. And that 3D model, you can plug into any one of these. How many use Adobe, the Adobe CC suite? You have a Dimensions, or Adobe Substance, or Blender, or Rhino if you're more advanced. So look at this. So again, an image generated quickly, upscaled pretty quickly as well, a few seconds, and then brought into Cadem. Took about 35 plus minutes working on it, and it came back with a model. And it understood the difference between the body and the cap. And I was going, wait a second. This is too good to be true, isn't it? I mean, I hit that goal pretty quick. And so I'm able to take that model and now put that into, let me try it in Dimensions. So I give it a shot. And sure enough, I took it into Dimensions, and I was able to quickly put the materiality to it and then render it out. Now, you could do the same thing with the next part, which is taking it into Blender. For those of you who don't know what Blender is, that's an open source 3D modeling software. And so it does the same thing. So you can see here, Cadem gives you different formats that you can output to. An object file, a GIB file, a USD file. I use an object file for these kind of 3D type models. And here I want to show you Rhino. Now you can use Rhino, SolidWorks, Cinema 4D, any one of those. And so again, using that same process that I'm showing you here, I took it into Rhino, and then we put it into KeyShot. And here I was able to control the kind of materiality that we can do. So I'm not prompting it, now I can get control for what I'm looking for. And if you think about this, so all of a sudden, you have a really interesting capabilities at your hands. Next part is the Rhino to 3D print. So here we go. Remember that body part? I can scale it, size it, do all sorts of things with it, turn it into a sub-D model, even have more control with it. And then finally, I got it to 3D print. So we have some models I wanted to pass out so you can feel a 2D image journey, a 2D image into a 3D model. Those models will be passed around so you can kind of see that. Because I think as packaging designers, we always want to feel the product. And that's what I was after here, is how can you feel that in your hand? So remember, how many seconds or how many minutes do you think it took me to do this? I've just closed the gap in terms of ideation to that. Now I can take my sketches and quickly turn them into this. And all of you are probably thinking right now, wait a second, do I need to know how to do 3D? What's going on here? So, all right. That's one of the techniques. Those models are being passed around so you can take a look at the fidelity of it and see. And no touch-ups, we just kind of took it into that and went for it. All right, so here's another technique that I want you to look at too. And it's something that I started to utilize it for packaging. And it's taking an image to video. Now, I know you've seen these before. You've seen them all over Instagram and LinkedIn and so on. And so I like this to look at it from vast visualization and concepts. Right? I can see things go from one thing to another. So for example, here I took that same image and I wanted to go from one material to another or one form to another. I can stop this at any time and I can have very quick ideation sketches come out of this. Pretty crazy, huh? I could even take it to go from a pouch to a container. Or I can go and look at illustration style as well. And I can see how so anywhere along this process, I can stop it and I can utilize it to output. So I don't know if that's giving you some interesting thoughts here on how you might work this, right? So, all right, then I show you some more examples on how you can get a little bit more definitive or even play with the idea of how you might create concepts or stories out of your packaging and what it comes out of it. All right. How are we doing now? Still okay? No one's afraid, right? Please don't be afraid. Okay, it's mixed. All right. So I decided to do this test, and I couldn't believe it. Sometimes Midjourney can actually get the logo, kind of. So it is being trained a lot in that area. And I was looking at, again, how I might play with these sort of like little campaigns to do these kind of morphs. So from a packaging perspective, I can play with this quite well. So you can start to see how this could relate to some of the concepts you might be developing up front. These are conceptual pieces that you can do up front. Here's Kyber AI. Kyber is another one where I was just able to specify just the gold and the bottle just to animate. All right. Now, how many of you have been playing with the new Photoshop beta? Just a few of you. Okay. After you see this, you're all going to be downloading this. We're going to crash the server. I mean, this downloaded, I think, last week. And I was going, oh, crap, got to change the slides again. Oh, crap, got to make new content for you. And it was up to the last minute last night. I kept changing things just to make sure everything didn't pop up and hit me on the side of the head. But here you go. So I decided to do this. I said, OK, let me show this. Now, you've all seen these examples. And I just wanted to do that for us so I could see that. Yeah, easy. I use a generative fill. I think some of you are probably already utilizing that to extend my pieces. But what I was after here is I wanted to see what I can do in Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, or Midjourney, create a background. Could I do that already inside of Photoshop? So I asked for a retail cosmetic counter in Photoshop, and it gave me 3 possibilities, and there you go. Wow. Yeah, exactly. I just said, wow. I go, holy crap. I go, wait, I'm using Midjourney, but now Photoshop is doing this? Wait, that screws up my whole workflow now. So anyway, but I'm kind of looking at this, and this is pretty amazing to see, isn't it? All right. Now, remember I told you about photocompositing. Now, that was just photocompositing within Photoshop. Well, here's another technique, and it's kind of interesting, because now that you saw Photoshop, I'm going to show you this, but look at this. So I needed an image that I was looking for my granola. And I said, well, what if I asked for the following? Remember I said, understand how to keep it simply. Close-up eye view shot of a modern white kitchen counter. Because I needed that shot to match the packaging that I shot with my iPhone. And so I kind of went through a couple of them that they showed me, and I kind of picked this one. I kind of liked it. It had the right angle. And that's out of Midjourney. And then all of a sudden I put that, guess what, into Adobe Dimensions, because I needed the kind of image that I wanted it on. And I already was working on a model of my kangaroo flash in a peace sign packaging granola and dropped it in. Okay, so that was pretty cool, and it rendered it out. Not bad. That was fast for me to get a background into it. So I did it the normal way. I took the photograph of my packaging with my iPhone, took the Midjourney image, and then I photocomposited it in Photoshop. All right, that was quick. And I think a lot of us are kind of utilizing that now in some of the ways that we're working with. But I wanted to show you again the whole Photoshop beta. And so took that same image, asked for a kitchen white top or a kitchen counter, and then I didn't like that bowl, so I said, can we put a bowl of granola in there? So I typed it all in there, and I got back 3 different generative issues of granola. I got my granola, and I go, you know what? I think I want to put a glass of juice in here. So I didn't get it quite right, but then I did it again, and then I finally got my glass of juice. But one of the things here is you just got to make sure you understand your proportions. So I had to get the proportion just right. It feels like maybe I got it right. But there it is. I didn't like that sink-looking thing because that looked weird. And so I got rid of that. And then I got, oh, I forgot the yogurt. So I put a dollop of yogurt on there. What do you guys think? It's crazy. So I don't know. Adobe Photoshop is changing the ways. And the really interesting thing about what Adobe's doing, it's doing it and it's training on what? It's training on Adobe stock. It's training on the Adobe. And that's a really smart way to do that. Because now it's giving back to the artists who are photographing, who are putting the art up there. And that's an interesting model because now there is that ability to utilize those sets, those data sets that Adobe's working with and pay back. So I know we're in that interesting area at this moment, but I wanted you to show that. Because this is where it comes to become quite controversial, or I would say there's a lot of discussion that takes place. And so I was looking at how might I create photographic story arcs. We all know the process. We all know what it takes. We go through all our scrapbooks, we go through Google, we go to stock photography, we look at our photographers, and we try and create a story or a mood board for a particular piece. And so here I was looking at, again, Gen Z Fitnesses, and I saw a particular image here that I liked, and I zoned in on one particular model. And I said, what if I create a story out of it? Could I put her in different situations? Lifting weights, using battle ropes, right? Eating a bowl of granola, and in there with her cohorts. And it's because I specified exactly what I was looking for so that I can take this to a photographer to say, this is what I'm looking for. Can we shoot this in this style, in this way? And then I also generate packaging within the same style and background. And of course, I had to do this just to see. So I put in the Paleo background, and you can see, but I got the background that I was over to match the overall photographic storyline. Pretty interesting. I just created all my stock photography for myself. But the way that I would utilize that is I would work with a photographer. Work with a photographer to play off of that.
We have, the session's about to wrap up. We have about 10 minutes until the next session, so there's a bit of a break. But I was thinking maybe if you want to take some questions from the audience.
Sure. I'll just finish here with this. And I've left some links in here for you for the future. So you won't be able to read these, but they'll be on the deck. It talks about all the legal issues that are on there. Also, I gave you some fast-track resources for you to download on books from my different colleagues. And likewise, some different types of websites for you to learn how to prompt, and also some YouTube artists that I talked about for you to take a look at and learn from, and some other links for you to take a look at as well. So, and some of the future stuff here. There's one on here which is crazy. It's called Dragan. It's makes Photoshop on steroids, which is crazy. And then I'll just leave you with this, which is looking at blockade 360 development of AI into a particular area. You can see me sketching and then putting that in there. So yes.
Don't get scared.
So remember, have fun and come up for air. I'll take some questions.
Are you able to share the presentation?
Yes, I'll be sharing the presentation. Huh? Yeah.
Okay, so
it'll be on the How Design thing, but I'll put it on the Discord server too.
okay. The presentation will be on the Discord server if you want to download it for all the resources. Does anybody have any questions? We have a couple minutes. Let's go right over here.
I'm wondering if you know about any tools working within very constricted brand guidelines, like kind of in a way of production, speeding up production.
So my former student here, Show AI, that's who you want to talk with.
Okay.
He's got a perfect tool that'll basically take all your data sets,
Right.
and create your brand style guidelines within seconds.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other questions?
Hey there. So the New York Times headline from a few weeks ago, AI poses risk of extinction, industry leaders warn. Could you address that?
One more time, can I hear that?
The AI poses risk of extinction, industry leaders warn, New York Times.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot about that. I've been following all sorts of stuff on that. And I just don't know about that. I just don't know. I see it, I scare myself because I keep wondering, like, how do I get ahead of this? How do I utilize this? How do I adopt with that? I just don't know. I mean, I grew up on those science fiction movies, so I see the positive and I also see the negative. So that's why I say work with us in the beginning phases to understand truly all the legal pieces that are coming with that as well. So, all right, good, yes.
Yes, we have one last question up here. Gerardo?
My idea might be taken.
Which one?
My idea
I'll get your question.
be taken from me. Like someone will steal my idea.
Uh,
I upload my sketch.
If you upload your sketch, you want to make sure you have a private server. So that's why, for those of you who are working in this area, make sure that if you're using Discord, you pay for the extra and have a private server so no one sees what you're doing.
And then
that
Gerardo,
would be my recommendation.
we have one last question for
Yes.
A quick question on print. If I'm creating an image that I'm going to use in a publication, who am I photo crediting the image to?
I personally would probably not quite utilize that just yet.
Okay.
I'd be very careful with that. That's why I said work with your
Work with the
lawyers
legal team.
and work with
Okay.
your legal team on that.
So
But I usually credit Midjourney and to say that I crafted
the software.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gerardo.
Yep.
Being together is pure sweet honey.